Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I am Sean Butler. I hope you're all happy and healthy doing the things you love. It's Monday. It's the start of the international break. So slim pickings for news. Well, transfer news maybe a little bit. We've got an update again about Semenyo. It's getting around the houses today that Semenyo is Tottenham's #1 target. I brought that video to you yesterday. So I'm not going to go too much into it anymore. I've already sort of said what I want to say. Would I love him to come? Yes. Do I think he would be unbelievable in a Tottenham shirt? Of course. Will he break the transfer record? 100%. He's probably a £100 million player, 25 years old, can play off both feet, both sides. An absolute powerhouse, 9 GA from 7. Absolutely astonishing acceleration in his trajectory this season. And it was a mistake really to not get him in the summer when the initial interests were there. But it is what it is. The second thing, of course, is probably the real dampener in the story is that, of course, he's an Arsenal fan, right? And you just don't want Eze Mark II happening again. And you could imagine that Arsenal, if he does come available, will buy him and then will liquidate Martinelli and or Trossard to pay for it. So I'm not getting my hopes up with the Semenyo story, guys. But I tell you what, more juicy than that. Not a day goes by right now where there isn't some interesting update with regards our potential ownership. And look, if Tottenham do want to be able to go big in January, go and splash the cash on a £100 million player, whether it's him or an Adam Wharton or someone else, or two players, maybe a 9 if we can find one, like a Samu Agahawa, maybe someone like a Serhu Guirassy, who, believe it or not, is back on the Tottenham wish list again, and 2 years after we missed out on him, when this guy called him more luck than substance. How wrong I was about him. Anyway, if you want that sort of money, if you want that sort of ambition, then we need to find the readies. And obviously we haven't as of yet seen, despite all of the assurances, the reassurances over and over again, and the explicit rejections, unequivocal rejections of any expression of interest for the football club, that the club isn't for sale and that the majority owners, the Lewis family, will be able to sustain us and will put all the money in that's necessary and everything will be fine. Just relax, it will be fine. Well, we hope so. But as you've known over the last couple of weeks, there's been a lot of expressions of interest, but it doesn't mean that those rejections, and 2 of the 3 have currently come out during the takeover period that they were given and have confirmed that they don't have any intentions to make a firm offer. It doesn't mean that they can't have some sort of relationship and sort of micro investments. Those rules are only in place for full takeovers. And so the news that came out yesterday from Alan Dixon at The Sun, who released this on his Patreon account, that Amanda Staveley of PCP Capital, one of the 3 people groups that put in an expression of interest, well, she was seen apparently with some other people, very VIP people, very interesting people, in the cohort and in the embracings of the Lewis family at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And I think that it begs the question, what's going on? Why the NFL? Why not Tottenham games? Is it just that she's interested in football, in NFL, more than she is football? Is it just it's a way for her to continue her relationships, but not do it at a Tottenham game that would get tongues wagging more than they already are? Or is it a way to bring together like-minded people in the other area of the potential, unity, the unification of 2 maybe sports franchises, Tottenham Hotspur and something from the NFL that will eventually come to London? It is the obvious place for its first international franchise over the next 5 years or so. And so would that particular environment be the perfect place for like-minded people with like-minded interests to get together and talk about the possibilities of some sort of JV, some sort of joint venture? And what would that look like in terms of potential funding? Well, the tongues have got wagging as a consequence, and I'm going to wag mine and show you a little bit of research that I've done into who could it be, what sort of private equity firms could it be that Amanda Staveley is bringing into the party here to make sense of the whole particular story. Don't forget, guys, it was last October the 13th, I think it was, last year, when Amanda Staveley was last at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for the last NFL game, or the penultimate NFL game. She was there. I forget the 2 teams that played that particular day. Was it Tampa Bay Buccaneers? And I forget. But yesterday it was the Cleveland Browns against the Minnesota Vikings. And as I say, she was spotted again. And of course, 2 months after last year when she was spotted, there was all the rumours around Staveley signing an NDA and that she was bringing together a consortium for £500 million for a micro investment. That all went quiet over the rest, or the sort of the last part of last season. Then as the summer went on and all of the upheaval happened with Daniel Levy leaving the football club and Charrington coming in and Vinay and everything else, and then the 3 expressions of interest, all of that culminated with her putting in an expression of interest. Then when it was rejected, she said, okay, we'll walk away. She can't officially come back for 6 months for a full takeover. It appears as though Tottenham Hotspur are not interested in that anyway. But like I say, it doesn't preclude them from coming back in with some minority relationship like they were trying to do last time. And the fact that she's back at Tottenham, I think we have to look into what would that look like. And so I've done a little bit of digging for you guys. Now, in order to, bear with me, I'll try and keep this as non-boring as possible, but we're trying to figure out what these things could look like. So in order to understand that, you have to start with her background. And look, back in 2008, in the financial crisis, PCP Capital, which is herself and her husband, is it Udogie, I think his name is? Murdad Udogie. Their joint venture in PCP Capital way back in 2008 were very much involved in the 7.3 billion pound capital raise for Barclays Bank. Now that was obviously to avert a UK government bailout, but in that particular interest, PCP Capital, i.e. Staveley, advised Sheikh Mansour bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the Abu Dhabi royal family, on a £3.5 billion stake, 16% ownership of Barclays Bank, alongside £2.3 billion from the Qatar Investment Authority, the QIA, which is Qatar's ruling family's private wealth, sovereign wealth fund. You go forward a little bit further. She was involved. PCP facilitated Sheikh Mansour's purchase via the Abu Dhabi United Group of Manchester City. She got they got a £10 million commission for that. But it's certainly built on the relationship that she's starting to build out in the Middle East. And she also started to get involved in scouting opportunities for the Dubai International Capital Group, which is owned by Sheikh Mohammed. She also had a failed bid. PCP led a Dubai International Capital's 49% stake bid for Liverpool that was around £500 million, way back. And that was going to place Staveley on the prospective board. The whole thing collapsed, though, due to owner disputes. Then, on top of that, PCP fronted the QIA, again, Qatar, and their £1.1 billion failed bid for Trillium, which is a UK property company, and $2.8 billion funding offer for BlackRock's Barclays Global Investors acquisition. Now, that was withdrawn over investor scrutiny in the end. So you can see that she's very much involved in a lot of deals with Dubai, Qatar, and obviously more recently with Newcastle United, the PIF fund. So these 4 Dubai, Qatar from the QIA and QSI, Newcastle United via the PIF, and Abu Dhabi with Manchester City, but all these other things. She was also involved, guys, in the Sainsbury's deal, in the London Stock Exchange, and the Harrods takeover. So she was involved in all of those particular deals as well. She's very, very, very much involved in anything that's coming into the UK from those parts of the world. So it would stagger me if those people weren't also involved. And of course, that £500 million deal that was supposed to be arranged back in January, or was the initial part of that micro stake, was Qatari private investors. And that obviously was probably to get around the fact that because of QIA and the QSI, the Qatari Sports Investment side of the Qatari Private Wealth Fund, they already own they already own 100% of Paris Saint-Germain, and so it'd be difficult for Tottenham to have those people overlaid. So it's probably through some sort of subsidiary to try to get around any scrutiny in that regard. Now, when it comes to the NFL, though, I'm trying to figure out how is it that Staveley knows people in the NFL on the American side. Now, in terms of, does she have any news, any relationships that are out in the public with regard to herself and any particular NFL franchise owner? And the answer is no. As best I can research and find, there is no connections between her and any particular person or group that directly own those particular companies. However, her relationships with all of those funds, all of those wealth funds out of the Middle East, do have connections into NFL ownership. Now, for what it's worth, NFL franchises have rules in place where wealth funds from anywhere else in the world, overseas investors, are not allowed wealth funds to have any direct ownership of American football franchises, but they are allowed to invest into private equity funds that are based in America that then have their own stakes in those particular franchises. And so consequently, indirectly, sort of like PIF into Clearlake Capital into Chelsea, indirectly, PIF and QIA and all these things have got investments in certain American football clubs, American football club franchises via the funds that do invest in them. And this is where it gets a little bit interesting. So there's sort of 2 or 3 broad companies that have investments in American football and NFL franchises that also are related to the QIA or to the PIF. Sixth Street Partners has a 3% stake in New England Patriots that was only approved in September of this year, a couple of weeks ago. And QIA has co-invested with Sixth Street in multiple real estate deals across Hong Kong, into America, and elsewhere, and somewhere a bid for Plymouth Industrial Reinvestment Trust, which I won't bother boring you with. But it seems a little bit too spurious, that particular link. But here's the one, Arctus Partners. So Arctus Partners have a 10% stake in Buffalo Bills that was approved at the tail end of last year, and 8% in Los Angeles Chargers that was approved in May of 2025. And the QIA sports team, Qatar Sports Investment, so now Nasser Al-Khalifi, who of course was really good mates with Daniel Levy, is very good mates with Amanda Staveley. Well, they sold 12% of PSG to Arctos, who have also got these ownership in Buffalo Bills and the Los Angeles Chargers. And Amanda Staveley's investment arm, Amanda Staveley's PCP, were involved somehow, I can't find the details here, but somehow in both sides of that transaction. So it says here, QSI sold a 12.5% stake in Paris Saint-Germain to Arctos in December 2023, valuing the club at $4.6 billion and establishing a strategic partnership. This marks QIA's first dilution of a majority-owned asset to a US PE firm, fostering ties in European soccer that could extend to US ports. Arctus's NFL investments predate this, but align with QIA's growing US portfolio. And the last one, guys, is the Miami Dolphins, who are also who have a 10% investor called Ares Management, ARES Management. That is also only from December of 2024, and they too have relationships with the QIA, and I think the PIF is in that one. Oh, sorry, yeah, the PIF and Ares co-invested £400 million in the McLaren Group Formula One team owners in July 2021, and they have since then gone on to put a 2% stake into the NFL group, the NFL franchise, the Miami Dolphins. So I'm just sitting there thinking, is there any chance here that the relationships between the QIA and QSI that Amanda Staveley absolutely definitely has, and the relationship between the Arctos group that gets involved in those NFL franchises, could that be the overlap? Could they be the sort of people that are looking at potentially bringing more connectivity between Tottenham and the NFL world to be able to make some sort of deal happen in the future? All of the stories that are out right now regarding Tottenham Hotspur's micro investment strategy, obviously the sale is out the window according to the Lewises, unless something obscene comes along in terms of a takeover bid. But for the purposes of the argument, they're not interested in the full sale. I would imagine that they're still probably looking for some sort of investment. And why was Amanda Staveley at the Tottenham Hotspur yesterday? Who was she with? Why was she doing that at an NFL game? Is it just because she is interested in Is it just because she's interested in NFL? Is it because doing something? Is it because an appearance at a football game would make too many tongues wag? Is there something to see here? Am I putting 2 and 2 together and getting too many? Possibly, guys. But I just think those relationships between Staveley, the Middle Eastern groups, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, PIF, and Qatar, and what they're getting involved in with regards investors that are getting into the NFL. Maybe Arctus is the place to look. Maybe Buffalo. Maybe Miami. Or maybe the LA Chargers. I'll leave it there, guys. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always,